want to come and check out this absolutely magical place, then go to platinumlist.net right now. Hey, it's Joe Mango here from Platinum List down at the Museum of Illusions. If you want to try out this awesome place, then follow me. Oh. Coming here, you seriously won't believe your eyes. Make sure you book right now for the Museum of Illusions, platinumlist.net. Whew.
Hi, I'm Lily.
And I'm Dan.
And we are The Load In. And good to be back. I always feel like we're always away for so long.
I know, it's because you miss me so much.
I do miss you so much.
Somebody actually said, though, the other day, like, oh my God, you two are like a married couple.
Are we?
And I was like, no, I actually feel like we are now. Yeah. I just need you to start paying my bills for me.
Oh, I need you to take me out to dinners, Dan.
One day, McDonald's.
McDonald's. Well, or Burger King.
Burger King, we'll talk about Burger King actually shortly.
We'll go with Burger King this time. Okay, today I'm actually quite excited because we've got a very old, dear friend of mine.
You were about to show your age then.
Every time we're crossing the Atlantic.
I'm
pretty sure we're crossing the Atlantic. On Zoom today, we've got a dear friend of mine called Samir Ansari.
You were struggling with that then.
I was struggling. Executive Creative Director at FCB New York. Sammy, it's so good to have you on the show.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. Hi, guys.
I totally failed on that intro for you. Over 20 years of industry experience across 3 continents. She is a force to be reckoned with. Now, that was a better intro.
Indeed. And from New York, or based in New York.
And from New York. Yeah, and you were asking, whereabouts in New York, Sam?
I live in the West Village, so I'm in Manhattan.
Nice. True. It's like one of my most favorite places. Like, honestly, New York is like the most favorite city. It's incredible.
Except right now it's empty, right?
Well, yeah, we were talking kind of off camera then, just talking about how kind of empty Times Square is, I guess, from everything that's happened at COVID. But New York has to be busy. It's such a busy, dynamic city. So I'm really excited for the energy to come back one day.
Well, we'll get Sam to answer those questions. But before we jump ahead, Sam, for all those people that don't know you as well as I do, please do tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. Hi. Well, what can I tell you?
Big question.
Do you want a career background? So Lily and I have known each other for years and years. We grew up together and we were friends together in Australia, but we've also worked together in a number of capacities, right? So I've been in the advertising industry for probably, I don't want to say that out loud, but maybe 20, 25 years, roughly, around about.
Give or take.
Just, that makes me sound really old. I'm not that old.
You started when you were
just
really
very
young.
Wise. Just very, very wise.
Straight out of primary school.
Yeah, you're like 8 years old when you started in the industry.
Exactly.
Child prodigy.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's been a fun ride. So I worked in Australia for about 4 years. And I think the beauty of working in the industry over there is in 4 years, I think you really do get 10 years worth of experience. It's a smaller industry. You do more, you learn more, moves faster. So then after that, I landed in Paris for about 5 years. I worked in Paris for 5 years. And before you know it, I've been now in New York for, I want to say, 12, 13 years, which is...
It has been 12.
Crazy.
It's more than that because you hit
crazy.
New York before I hit Dubai.
I did.
It's more.
So there you go. It's probably like coming to 13, I think. Next year will be 13 years, which is crazy if you think about it. Just time flies.
Yeah.
So, like I saw Obama get sworn in, then I've seen governments change. I've seen hurricanes. I've seen like lots of stuff's happened in the 10 years I've been here.
And apparently there's been a pandemic recently as well. So you've seen that recently.
There's been pandemics, fires. I mean, it's just 2020 alone is enough to...
Can't wait for it to be all over.
But you're being a little bit modest here because you, in all of that experience, you failed to read off your who's who of agencies that you worked for.
Okay, so I've done the big agencies and I've done the small agencies. I started at Cummins and Partners in Australia, which is a really awesome agency. At the time, it was a small boutique agency, and then it sort of became huge and won lots of awards. I think I remember like literally one of my first client meetings was with Richard Branson, which was kind of ridiculous because we pitched to win Virgin Airlines. Again, we were a small boutique agency. And I just remember like Richard Branson walking around the office going, man, this is amazing. And I still live with my parents. It was like, drive 45 minutes home to mum and dad's.
Did you win the pitch?
Yeah.
We did. We won the pitch. It was crazy. It was.
Virgin would be a good brand to work with because, like, he's quite fun.
Yeah.
They do some crazy things.
I saw some of the photos and I heard some of the stories.
I just always remember Richard Branson dressed as like Father Christmas.
Something. Always something.
There was always.
He's
something.
the nicest man. Like I think he works the room. He walked around and talked to everybody. I mean, literally, it was my second month on the job. I was 22. Just complete awestruck by this man's like charisma and everything, but really lovely guy. We ended up all going out and drinking and, back in the old advertising party days. It was fun. It was a really good work experience. And then sort of after I worked on that account for a little while, I was doing car catalogs just to learn how it's done, like overnight shoots in car parks, shooting cars. But that was Australia was great. It was a really good base for everything that I've done in my career. I learned a lot about strategy and creativity and all that stuff at Cummins. And then I went to Y&R in Melbourne, which was a really good agency at the time. And they still are. They do. I mean, Australia's ad industry is constantly producing really innovative work.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just remember sitting at my desk and I got a phone call from Sarah Barkley, who is one of my mentors. She's been my mentor for many years, one of the earlier like women leaders in advertising. And there weren't that many women at that level. And she was in New York. She did. Do you remember Sikkim Rex? There was a whole bunch of amazing work out of Australia.
Listen, there isn't a single Australian that doesn't know this ad.
Okay.
Sikkim Rex.
Yeah. And Not Happy Jan.
Not Happy Jan. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All this will mean nothing to anyone.
It doesn't. I'm going to Google it now when I get off.
You
there.
need to Google it. Listen,
it.
these ads are classics.
I just remember as a kid, especially from Australia, like Castlemaine 4X, I think it was it 4X?
Yeah.
Like the beer
4X,
ads, like they were institutional. Like when I was a kid, I remember them.
All right.
Anyway,
look up Not Happy Jan and Sikkim Rex.
She sounds like someone I'd want to be friends with.
Awesome.
She's an awesome woman.
Okay,
she's
cool. I'm gonna do it.
So anyway, she called me and she's like, "Hey, what do you think? Like, there's a gig in Paris." And I was like, "I don't speak any French." And I just remember like my partner Amy at the time. I'm like, "Hey, mate, you want to go work in Paris?" She's like, "Yeah, why not?"
That's
good. Like, 6 months later, we're in Paris. It took a while to get the visas actually, but that was awesome. My 5 years in Paris were amazing. I was at Saatchi in Paris. It was a weird gig. It was one of those like gigs where you think, why isn't the penny dropped? Because they had a bunch of Aussies in Paris working on European brands reporting to New York. So we were, I was leading like the laundry business in all of Europe. So there's Dash in Italy and Tide in the US and Ariel in France and Spain and Portugal. So we were basically like traveling through Europe, understanding how different people perceive laundry and laundry powder. And it's so strange. And we were doing house visits and spending time with mamas in Italy and learning about how they go about doing things. And it was very, very odd, but it worked. Like we launched a really successful sort of campaign that was global, because the global campaigns are really hard to do because everybody, people are so different everywhere. Even in Europe, every little country is very different.
It's interesting you should talk about laundry, actually, because we're working on a couple of projects at the moment. And I with laundry, some of the people you just mentioned, actually, and it's so funny, I guess, like the science and the thought and the kind of the marketing and the
but
detail,
it was always
the
the
perspective.
It's like the way you speak to one market, you could not work at all in another market. And I remember so when Sammy announced that she was moving to Paris, it was only a few months after that I'm like, right, I'm following, I'm going to London. I'm like, you can't leave me. So I moved to London just shortly after that, and then I remember speaking to Sam, and she's like, working on this pitch, working on this campaign, this laundry, and I'm like, how complicated could laundry be? She's like, wow.
There's a science behind laundry.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
I learned everything about enzymes this week, and I was like, it's stuff which I never knew I'd ever be doing. But laundry's actually quite fun.
Pretty hardcore.
Yeah, although I do get somebody else to do it for me.
Pretty.
Anyway, sorry, we
digress again.
Yeah.
Some of the funnest times I've had was hanging out with the R&D, like the nerdy scientists that would talk about enzymes and things. And it was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like the science of this is amazing. So anyway, did laundry for 5 years in Europe. And that was a really good career break. I think first of all, I think living in Paris in your 30s was amazing.
I mean,
I
cheese
highly
and wine.
recommend it. Say again.
I said the cheese and wine. It's amazing.
The cheese and wine, the whole thing, the smoking, the men, the fashion, the travel, like all the wrong things and all the best things. I think to be, to be in your 30s and travel through Europe and have a company that supports you, and we had proper budgets and a proper system, so it was really nice. It was a really easy way to see Europe and experience it other than the regular backpack around Europe, Aussie style.
And then he jumped on a plane and went to New York.
Yeah, and remember I mean, we can talk about our tattoos, but I remember I came for a job interview.
My mom still doesn't know the story.
Well, your mum knows now. So Lily's mum's going to go crazy that Lily's now like tattooed and branded.
She did see it one day. I accidentally pulled my hair up as I was walking out of the house, and my mom's like, "Are tattoos permanent?" And I'm like, and I just kept walking, going, "Yes."
Oh.
And then I just got up,
You
but she
could've
doesn't know the
removed them
story.
Okay. So I think we might hear the story now, maybe.
Another time.
Another time. No, I flew to New York for my job interview, and Lily was in Dubai, so Lily came and joined me, and another friend came from London and joined us, and so it was fun because
and it was an Australian reunion.
Absolutely. And it was very classy to begin with, and then
it went downhill quick.
Very quickly. Bellinis. I think it was the Bellinis.
Of course.
Yeah.
I bet you were all like living your best like Sex in the City life,
It was
like
amazing.
just going for
It
it.
was amazing.
Of course.
Let's just put it this way. Got to a certain point of the night, and we actually trusted a cab driver to take us to a trusted inking establishment. And
like
that's
you do
how
when
it
you're in New
happened.
York.
Exactly.
Interesting.
I still have the paper, Sam.
I still have the napkin with my doodles on it.
Yeah,
we're very lucky we didn't end up with slices of pizza on it.
Because we kept thinking about something that had 3.
Okay, like a pizza.
So my creative team did the best we came up with at one point.
I
Was
can only imagine what
pizza.
the doodles were like after numerous Bellinis on the back of a napkin.
We might share that at some point.
I think there was a martini glass.
Yeah,
it
could have been like
slice of pizza.
Oh, it's almost like that meme that you see. It's like the client's brief versus the client's budget.
That's exactly what we were. That's exactly what we were. But
nice.
Sam is. I think that was the first brief, but many briefs since Sam life has changed a bit.
Yeah.
And the quality
that was
of
fun.
the
And the funny part is that my other friend Gina and I became a team. Because you work in teams in advertising, so we both had the same tattoo, and we had the 3-star team, which was kind of sad. So we really had to overperform to make ourselves turn into a 5-star team and not a 3-star team. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about work. So anyway, I landed in New York. I was at JWT in New York, which, look, when I landed at JWT, it was one of those like epic moments in advertising where it was the largest agency in the world at the time. I don't want to give numbers because I would be wrong, but I know it was 6 floors of a New York high-rise.
Nice.
Thousands of employees, thousands. The creative department alone was over 300-400 people, which is huge. I
remember at the time we were sitting in the hotel room, and you're like, whoa, Lil.
You made it.
Well, shit just got real.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was Madison Avenue. It's like everything that you want advertising.
Of course, it's like the epicenter of the advertising industry.
So
Absolutely.
you see, it's a who's who
of
ad agencies. So after JWT, it was.
What did I do? I went
just
from
kept getting headhunted.
I went to Shire Day in New York, which again was another, like if you look at the iconic work that's come out of Shire in New York, it's whether it's Skittles and all that amazing work that Jerry Graff did years and years. That was another agency that you kind of get chills at saying that you worked at. So it was Shire Day in New York. And then after Shire, I went to Gray in New York, and Gray, again, at the time was doing really, really great work with Tor, who now actually is at Apple. And then I did a year at Leo Burnett in New York, which was spectacular. And then I landed at Johannes Leonardo, which is a very interesting agency, an Aussie/South African owned agency in New York. And they're doing spectacular work. So it's always really good to see expats do well in a city that's, it's very, the industry here is super American, and you have to understand the culture.
It's so very cutthroat.
I was going to say, it's
very cutthroat.
I mean, like, you got to, like, New York by nature is very gritty. You've got to hustle. Like, you really got to be good, and you got to, like,
it's sort of like Dubai in a different way, where it's pretty cowboy here. It's eat or be eaten. You know, you get there's a real survival of the fittest kind of symmetry there. I have to say, which is why I thought it would be great.
Yeah, 100%. New York is still like the one place that I want to end up. Like when this career kind of progresses, I just want to get there.
Let's go. We'll get on a plane
100%,
when it's all
let's do
fine.
it.
Let's go have an adventure. We'll go. Sammy will come over for a drink.
Come. Seriously, I think honestly you get to meet it's all sorts of, you hardly ever meet anyone that's from New York, right? Because that's the nature of this city. So there's all sorts of people. So many of my colleagues, I mean, right now, if I work with English, my management team, Brazilian English, there's you know, all sorts of people from all sorts of
It's
backgrounds.
it's pretty much the
Portuguese.
way it is here as well. You know,
Yeah.
the teams that you work with come from like back in Oz, you had a diversity, but it
Yeah.
was still a slight limited diversity back then. Things have changed, obviously, but now I sit in a team and the nationalities that I work with, I'm like, yeah, this would not happen
Yeah,
back in
for
Oz.
sure.
You know, well, not 20
We're in
years
truly
ago.
global cities.
Very
And I mean,
much
like
so.
New York is like the
Yeah.
most global
Very
city
much
in the
so,
entire world.
100%. But Sammy, so I've always been curious about this question. I go, so for you, because you've worked across many continents, a variety of incredible agencies, what do you see as being the common thread of being able to deliver award-winning work across that sort of geography?
That's a good question. I think we're all human, right? So we talk about insights. I hate the word insights. It makes it sound so strategic, but you have to connect with people on a certain level. So ultimately, your problem solving, there's always an issue. There's always a brief, right? Like you guys said earlier, you're creating, you're coming up with a solution for a problem, and that solution is always you're having a dialogue with someone. So whether you're telling a story or you're solving a problem, whatever it is, you have to connect with people, and it comes from human insights. So it doesn't matter where you are or what language you speak or whatever it is. If you know the problem and you know the people that you're speaking to, you can always come up with a really cool solution.
Well, that's
That
definitely
makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely been proven with the fact that you joined FCB was basically just 2 seconds, milliseconds before the lockdown and Corona hit. So it sounds like they picked the right person to join the team to see them through something like this,
This is
right?
one of the biggest problems we've all faced. So
And-
yeah, going back to the solutions type of thing, this is
exactly.
the time when you can step up and create solutions.
And that's what you guys have done. So how's it been?
Yeah.
How's it been?
FCB has been, look, I was in the office, I want to say maybe a month and a half before. It was like, all right, guys, it was a Friday afternoon, drink o'clock, and everyone was standing around the kitchen. And the news is always on. And it was like, oh man, this is real. So I think we might have to, just
how
grab
did it
what you
start
need from your
there?
desks,
But Sam, how did it start there? Like, for us, it was a little bit quiet, and then the momentum. We sort of heard about Corona, we heard about China.
We always thought it was somebody else's
It
problem.
always felt like it was someone else's problem, and then all of a sudden, one day, literally within about a fortnight, it all sort of went.
Yeah, and it was just like everybody had that kind of look of uncertainty.
Exactly.
And you could just feel tension. There was just
Yeah.
something.
But it was all of a sudden one day everyone go home. That sort of happened, and then within
Yeah,
a week of
literally.
that, everyone was locked down. Was
Yeah.
it like that over in New York, or was it a little bit different?
No, I think, look, we were keeping an eye on it, but like you said, it happened very quickly, right? So from a Monday to if you sneezed or you had allergies or whatever, like people would just think you were
Yeah.
the devil.
Yeah,
for
like
lack of a
patient
better word,
zero.
right? Exactly. So, and then I remember sort of towards midweek, it was like, this is serious, because they were starting to talk about the numbers. And one thing I think the New York government did a good job at was they were scaring people, because
Yeah.
I mean, we live on top of each other. It's not, you think about, like, I get on the subway and you're literally on top of
Sandwiched.
people.
Yeah.
Sandwiched, right? So if you can't not take this seriously in a city like this, and you saw the numbers.
Yeah.
And literally, I think on the Friday afternoon, management sort of got everyone together and said, guys, I think this is serious. We've decided as like the company, and it's a global company, that we're going to shut the office down. So just take what you need it'll be a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
So I just remember, like, I just left I'll just leave my sweater. I'll just grab my laptop, and that was March 15th.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
6
never-
months ago.
Yeah, you walked out March 15th.
Literally,
And you've
like,
not.
I was
I was gonna say you've not been
seen
back
trees.
since.
No, I haven't been back. It's ridiculous. Like, I've seen the leaves fall off the trees, and then it's summer and the leaves are back. I've seen families of birds. Like, there's a bird's nest at my window. I'm like a child. I'm like, oh my God, there's like a family.
It's like nature's taking over.
Nature's taken over. It's like ridiculous, the things. But it's been an interesting time. Like,
Yeah.
there's half members of my team that I've never met, because it's ridiculous how our agency's done so well in the 6 months as well. We've won pitches, and we've like doubled in size, and when you look at just the nature of what's happening, we've been very lucky in the way that the agency is surviving and is doing quite well.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word thriving, because I don't think that's correct. But yeah, there are people that I'm on Zoom with daily, and I've never met them, and it's kind of like, hey, we should maybe organize a team drinks at some point so people can social distance and meet each other. But it's fascinating that I think human beings are so easily, we adapt so easily, right? Like you look at history, and I've become like this crazy like history buff where I'm just like, wow, we just adjust to things and we get on with it, and we have gotten on with it, and things are working.
Yeah.
But as a creative agency, like we all know that some of the best creative work happens where people sit together. Right. So now you guys from what would you said, the 15th, 16th of March, you've just rocked up. You've come in as the executive creative director. You're overlooking, I'm assuming a pretty decent sized team of creatives, and then of which don't get a chance to meet all of them. And then all of a sudden everyone's got to go home and be creative within their own little silos.
It's interesting. I think there's a lot more checking in with people to make sure everyone's doing okay and everyone's fine. And there's different levels. Like we have some of the younger creatives that went home to move back in with their parents, right? Because why would you want to pay like New York rents? And it's different. You're in your own space and you can do your own thing. But if you have like 5 roommates, it's very difficult for you all to be on Zoom at the same time and try and. So I think that's been interesting to watch people do. But Lily, I run a pretty large portfolio and it's quite diverse. I imagine I'm working with teams from Mexico, from Brazil, and we have local Brazilian writers and art directors. And we've literally just come up with this amazing campaign that will hopefully launch over there. But we all did it from our apartments in wherever the hell we are. Some people are in New Jersey.
Well, no matter who you're speaking to across the world, every single person is going through exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
all slightly differently, but we're all going through the same.
But it's the question is though, how do you stay creative? And that's one of the reasons.
The very nature of not lockdowns, I think, are not very creative.
Exactly.
You're confined into an environment which
it's like you're bouncing ideas with me, myself, and I in your own head. But you guys have managed to sort of create the right, you get on calls, do you are you brainstorming online or are you doodling on your own and then sort of going, guess what, I've got something, let me run it by you? Like how have you done it?
Look, I'm sort of at a level up here, so I'm like watching the teams do their thing, which is a very lucky position to be in. But we have a policy which I love, which at the beginning was a little difficult, was camera on. So we're always on Zoom and we're always have the cameras on. So I can tell you, I told someone off for not making their bed the other day because I'm like, hey, So I've met people's kids, people's parents, people's pets, and I think we've all sort of gotten to know each other in completely different ways. In that sense and that's the thing, you're on Zoom all day, and my partner who doesn't work in advertising just walked past the other day and he's like, my God, you've been talking nonsense for a whole hour. And I'm like, it's not nonsense, we're brainstorming. So it's just
you have no idea.
It's the same conversations we were having sitting together, we're just having on Zoom.
Yeah,
that's actually really, really cool. Like I like that concept of Zoom on, that is just on.
Yeah.
And you just keep going. You go on with your day and you might come up because we all know to be creative, like even for us in the events world, you'll be doing something completely different. You'll be cooking and you're like, and it's great to be able to turn around and go, I just had an idea, and actually have an audience to speak to or to have someone to bounce it with.
I think that's what I personally found as one of the biggest challenges during like the kind of the lockdown phase when you were kind of isolated, for me personally in my own apartment.
Yeah.
It's like I never had those light bulb moments because I wasn't feeling inspired. Like normally like you might be like, I don't know, when you're in New York, you're on the subway or
you look out the window and you see the birds.
Or the bird's nest. These are where you start to get your ideas from. And it's for creatives, I guess, like the whole lockdown thing was quite challenging, but it's interesting that people can still be creative, and even more so, I guess.
But remember, this is what we were talking about way, I don't know, the first or second episode that we did, that we were saying that.
It's like a lifetime ago.
Oh, well, it feels like a lifetime ago. But as an events industry, core to what we are is creative.
Of course.
So, although.
And bringing people together.
And people look to us for that.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I thought there was a lot of symmetry between the event world and the ad world, because there's a lot of crossover, that at the end of the day, it's not enough for us to be told to social distance. We're like, okay, we'll social distance, but we'll do it this way.
Yeah.
It's got to be creative.
Solution.
It's got to have a creative solution. Now, you guys have done some pretty cool stuff, and the one that I read, there's two that really hit me. One was what you guys did with Burger King, and that's because of the nature by which you were able to take something that already existed that was supposed to be used for one thing and were able to, and here's the word, pivot and use it.
I was just about to say the word pivot.
you know.
I actually don't mind using the word pivot
I like
on this
pivot.
occasion.
You know, I got no
Not
issue
in general,
with it.
but I think this one was
Listen,
warranted.
you use it at the right time. I
Yeah.
think some people just were throwing it away left, right, and center when what they did actually wasn't pivoting.
But this was smart. This was a creative way that you took something
so
adapted.
Sammy, I want you to tell the story of this one, and then I'd love you to share the other one that made me pick up the phone and go, I want you on the show. The one that I can't pronounce. So there's something ultra.
The NBA, the Michelob Ultra, yeah.
Yes, that one.
Just makes it sound so
Look,
easy.
I can't take credit for any of the Burger King work. It's fantastic. The client is amazing, and this was a campaign that had been in the making. I think they'd shot a whole campaign, and it was for something completely different. COVID happened, and Gabrielle, who was my CCO, who's spectacular. I think they looked at it and they went, "Hey, we can completely rejig this and make it about something else." Reimagine. That's a good word. And pivot and make it about something else and have some fun with it. And I think if you look at the numbers, it's in the top 5 most viewed.
Oh, it went viral.
It went
viral for more reasons than one.
I'm not sure if viral is the right word now.
Sorry, that was a faux pas. I'm putting my foot in it so much.
All right.
So much.
That is the word. That's exactly the word. No, because they were fun spots, and the people needed that at the time. There was so much. I mean, did you see the funny spoof that they did using stock images, which was a whole bunch of everybody was doing sort of stock images with a voiceover over the top, the COVID style advertising to that we can do it and we can hang together. And Burger King just had some fun with it, but it was a really good message. They did good. They gave stuff away, like it was. I remember talking to a nurse here, a friend of mine who's a nurse, and she had lost so much weight, and she said they were afraid to eat.
Wow.
Because they don't take anything off, so they do a 12-hour shift and nothing comes off. Like there's no liquid intake or food intake.
It was very clever. Very
I just watched it before this episode.
Did you
now.
see it? Isn't it awesome?
It's really cool. We should share a link actually, so people can see it.
We'll definitely share a link.
It was very emotional, like it was in a cool, creative way. Like it was
but
interesting how they did it.
What I found awesome about it, and what the industry gave, gave sort of hats off to the team was. They took content that was created for something else. It could have ended up on the cutting floor.
Of course.
Instead, they were able to reimagine it and actually use it and bring a really lovely message at a time where people needed a little bit of hope, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of something. Like that's the part of it that I found so inspiring. So there was that one, and then your one, Ultra.
Ultra. So look, that's an interesting client. So I've always wanted to work on beer, right, throughout my career, and so. All of a sudden, everything shuts down. So we have campaigns lined up, millions and millions of dollars of work, and it's like, God, what are we going to do? They have Brooks Koepka, who's a golfer. They have Anthony Davis, who's a basketball player. There's Jimmy Butler. They have these amazing stars lined up, and there's no sports. And I remember watching the news, and there's a quote from LeBron, and he's like, "I ain't playing. Like with no crowds, we're not playing." So sports just shut down, and that you can't do that. Like that's a lifeline to so many people. So for us, it was like, all right, what can we do? And I remember it was literally on that last day at the office, we were all standing around watching the news going, everything is shutting down. We're all going into lockdown. And one of the guys said, hey, what if we just put screens in seats? And you guys are in the events industry, so imagine that. Yeah, we'll just put a screen in every seat and
That'll
just
be fine.
Have an audience there. We're like, yeah, that's really cool. And it started like that. And then everyone went home, and I remember there was a text message from my boss to our client Ricardo, who's awesome, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I mean, guys, it took I can't even tell you how many people. And then we went to the NBA with the idea. The NBA were already doing something with Microsoft, and it just became this crazy expensive but really awesome experience where I don't know how many screens, but you can see they built this bubble in Orlando, Florida. The players were quarantined for 2 weeks, and it's if you look at all the sporting industry, I think probably it's been the most successful purely because of the bubble. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you see football's coming back and people keep testing positive and there's spikes and it slows down. But I think the basketball games have been going on now for feels like months, but at least 2 or 3 months, and we're going into the finals season.
But it was so much fun. Like I had a double take when I first saw it. But you posted it, and I'm like, hold on, are there people?
Really,
sitting?
it was a monster effort. Like if you think about putting 5,000 people in a stadium, right? So it's literally this. It's live. It's done with Microsoft Together mode, they call it.
Yeah,
it's super cool. There's always fun people that pop up. Like if you watch, I can send you a fun reel.
please do. We'll put up the
Lil
link.
Wayne. There's been celebrities that have been there. There've been Scottie Pippen, Shaq's constantly there, and so you basically get to watch the game with a bunch of your pals. So if you're in a group with 34 people, you all get to talk to each other. So you're on a Zoom situation like this, but you're also
hilarious. It's actually hilarious.
I think I know who might have done some of the technology, but I'm going to have to double check that.
We'll double check that.
I saw on the Facebook and I was like, that's really interesting. And now it's just dawned on me kind of what it was.
But it was hilarious because you're sitting there and I'm like, honestly, as I said, it took me a double take. I go, hold on, are they really there? Or, oh no, hold on a minute, they're not really there, but they feel like they're really there. And for me, it looked like it was like cuts out of people that were originally, I thought it was just cutouts of people that they put there.
Well, that's what they've done in Europe.
Okay.
I know,
well, these guys did it a lot better.
But that's important. Like that's important to talk about, right? Like, why do players play? Like again, I go back to like LeBron's quote. It's they don't play for themselves. They love the audience, right? So it's symbiotic. The relationship between the players and the fans, they feed off each other. So. You look at all these empty stadiums where people are playing football.
That's events. Do you know what I mean? That's events. We're nothing if it's not for the people. Like we create the
experiences.
We create the platform for the experience.
Yeah,
we
true.
create the environment for the experience. But the people that add to that experience and make it what it is are the people that come.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with sports. You're completely right. So the solution you guys found for it, I thought was just incredibly clever, not only to keep the industry alive, but to also feed into what it needed for the basketball players to perform. Like you watch, one of the other clever ones that I saw was with the soccer football, whatever you want to call it. They had barely anyone in the seats. They had, a couple of sort of fans here and there. But when you're watching it on television, sitting in your own home, they actually put the sounds of crowds in on it. It was so clever.
It's crazy. So as people are running and you're getting louder,
the umpire going, and you're hearing all this laugh and cheering and whatever. And I literally felt like I was watching a normal game. But then every now and then you look on screen and you see in the background, there's no one sitting there. There's 3 people there, and it's like,
you get like a cutout like Donald Trump or something.
Basically.
You can put celebrities in. It's quite funny. Anyway.
No, that's the thing. You do a sound mix, right? And but all of that stuff was happening. We wanted it to be as real to close to the real experience as possible, right?
It was.
So you're literally sitting there, and it's still going on. I think the finals are happening. We're going to do some fun things with the crowd, but you're watching the game. They see you there. They hear you. You hear them.
Nice.
So in that sense, it's. Again, you're in your living room, you have your beer, you have your friends that are in the Skype room with you, not the Skype room, the Microsoft room with you.
It's a really creative concept.
It was really good.
It was temporary.
It was really well. That's the thing. I'm leading to one of my last questions, which is, do you see this as being the dreaded new normal? Do you think the face of advertising, because of everything that's going on, that it's going to change forever, or do you see that there is going to be a push to bring it back to what we really are with creativity?
Well, people's behaviors have undoubtedly changed.
Yeah, but is it temporary?
I guess for a while, I guess.
Yeah. Sam?
That's a good question. Look, I think there's two things, 2 parts to this, right? The way people work and then the work that we produce. The way we work, I think, has changed, whether we like it or not. And I think we've realized that it can work in a different way. Don't get me wrong. I will be the first person who's back in the office sitting with my team when that's possible, because I love that. But it's working. I can't say that the work that we're coming up with is any less creative or the standards any worse. I think we've done some really good creative work, creative thinking, but I think creativity is just, it is what it is. It's always going to be around.
But for how long?
But you apply it to whatever the problem is or whatever you're trying to create against, right? I mean, if you look at history in general, people change, the world changes, and we change with it. And creativity does the same thing. We just keep reinventing the way we do things and the way.
Well, I don't know. I think it sort of goes back to the comment you made before, Dan, about when you're sitting at home and there's nothing there, it's hard to be creative. Granted, you're able to be creative right now and it's working, but can you see this happening long term.
Because like for me, like I want to be outside.
In 6 months' time, in a year's time, is this really what we want?
No,
I can't.
No,
I think at
so.
some
Look,
point.
Yesterday, I went to a bunch of galleries in New York for the first time in 6 months, and we had to make appointments, and we gave our details when we walked in, and I was waiting for them to take my temperature. But it was the first time I felt like, oh wow, like resemblance of a regular Saturday in New York. Yeah. No, I don't think
so. Hopefully,
sitting
not going back to normal, not a new normal. We got another one on our side. I like this.
Also, as well, like for me personally, it's like I want New York to get back to that hustle.
Want to get over there.
Craziness, like there's nothing like walking through Times Square at 4 o'clock in the morning.
We're
like,
people.
It's mental.
People cannot exist.
Don't worry,
people.
It's still nuts. It's still there's still like jazz bands that walk around the streets. I mean, the West Village, just everyone's drinking. It's like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But Sammy,
for me, it was all the crazies.
We need you, Sam. We need you to research one thing for us and get back to us because Dan really needs to know.
What?
The cowboy.
About the naked cowboy.
The naked cowboy. We need to know if he's down there.
Apparently he's still there. I saw on his Instagram the other day that he's still there, like, playing his guitar to about 3 people.
If you happen to see him, can you give him a shout out from the Load In?
I will take a selfie with him for you at a safe distance.
Awesome. We will be posting that. Now, I was going to finish off. With a little bit more of a dull question, but I really love where we finished on this. But no, in all honesty, we hope that FCB keeps continuing going from bigger to better and continues to be as creative as they are, because I think we need it. We need more examples of the work that you guys are doing. Yeah. It's been inspiring, and we can't wait to sort of be able to share that with our viewers here.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to get back out there. Our events are starting to open, and it's great to be able to share this sort of work and say, you know what, creativity is still possible.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Creativity never dies. Thank you for having me, you guys.
Oh, thank you for the time.
Joy.
It's early morning Sunday for you, so I know it's your day off. We've dragged you out of bed. Have you had coffee yet?
Go for brunch.
No.
Oh, well,
I hope I made sense. Maybe I will go for brunch.
You make complete sense.
Me and Lily are gonna have to hustle a trip to New York now, and I'm desperate to go to the West Village now. I'm like,
let's start planning, get an itinerary. Sam, we're on our way.
Done.
We're on our way. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys.
We'll have you back.
Anytime. Good luck with everything.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.